relationships are affected by the current dynamic where you have like, we've got such division and such political discourse. How do you think that affects couples?
Well, we're taught that to get what you want, you have to have the better argument. You have to have the better reasoning. You have to have really good justification. And most of us are taught that in a number of ways, but an easy example is a kid wants something and they know they're not going to be able to get it. They're going to work a workaround and they're going to have all kinds of reasons to do it. So we learn to come up with all of the reasons
To win
and
favor.
to win favor somehow. There was a video. It was really cute. There was this kid who was probably 7 years old or something, and he's he's making the video for other kids. This is how you get what you want for your parents. Okay. And he shows the first example. Dad, I want ice cream. You can't have ice cream. Throwing a fit, and dad's like, get ice cream. And he's like, that's not gonna work. That's not a good idea. This is what you do, and then he goes in, Dad, you're doing such a great job at that or something. And he just compliments the shit out of his dad and what a great dad he is. And then maybe we could just go outside and play catch or something. And Dad's like, oh, we can do that. Well, let's do that. Oh, okay. And then we can go get ice cream. Oh, sure.
A true story. I was at an event last night, and my wife had to discipline the boys, send them to bed early, and they were disrespectful. They lashed out. My youngest son kicked the wall, and so they went to bed early. So I get home about 8:30, maybe quarter to nine, and I walk into the boys' room, and they've got their reading lights on, and they're in bed, but they're reading. The first thing my oldest says to me, my boys share a room, and Cole, my 10-year-old, he says, Dad, you look really skinny. I was like, what? He's like, wow, you look,
Mhm.
yeah, you just, when you walked in the door and I only saw your shadow, I'm like, wow, you look really skinny. You look really thin. Have you been losing weight? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, wait a minute. This
Mhm.
is something that, I mean, I don't know if he's watching my old podcasts or if he's Googling or going on YouTube. It's like, how do you soften up your parents? But I mean, as someone who has studied Dr. Stephen R. Covey or been in sales and business development my whole life, I know the value of beginning in a friendly way and offering up a compliment to
Right,
disarm someone. And my
right.
kid, I walk in the room to have a talk, and the first thing out of his
Mhm.
mouth is, "Wow, you look really good.
Oh,
Have you
yeah,
lost
really
weight?"
good. What's going on?
Is that crazy?
No, I mean they learn all that. I mean, we're actually taught that in a lot of cases we just need to lie.
Uh,
I mean, we're taught.
are you saying I'm not looking thin?
I mean, we're a few pounds, but yeah, we're taught, and it's a developmental thing, and it's something really that you're supposed to celebrate because it's your kid figuring out how the world works. You know.
Or is it the access to information, in which case I got to look at a search history? I'm not sure.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's all those things that add up. Get back to the original question that add up. The training that we get in our childhood adds up to an us versus them, and that there's this feeling of lack. So most of us feel like we never have enough. And so then survival kicks in, that, okay, I don't have enough. It's just like watching the birds out here. There's plenty of fucking bird seed out there for them, and we'll put more if it runs out. They come, but they're going to chase off the other birds that they don't like. That's right. Yeah, that's my food. The fuck I am. No, this is my woman. Get out of here. And then that's what we do. And so the rich get as rich as they can, and then they get power. Money's power. They get power. They're going to use it in that way. I'm going to protect what I have and get more.
Yeah.
And I don't give a shit whether you have any or not.
Yeah. Is that title
They
right
look
there?
differs to many.
Yeah. So how does this desire to prove oneself or point of view, how do you coach couples to go from opposite sides of the table to the same side? How do you get people to empathetically work through that?
Well, the goal isn't to get them on the same page. You don't need to be on the same page. You don't need to be on the same page to have a good relationship. You don't need to be on the same page to raise your children. I think it's wonderful if you can teach your kids that mommy thinks this and believes this, and daddy thinks this and believes this. And so if it's just mommy, it's going to be this. And if it's just daddy, it's going to be this. Right. And they learn that not everybody's the same and that's all right. And that's just what it is. So you don't have to push the other person to be like you because every argument is a version of this doesn't work for me. I want it this way. And if you would just want it my way, we would be okay. That's every argument because obviously you didn't get the memo that I was named supreme ruler and I know what's best for all of us, including you, and you got to listen to me
But it's not enough that they listen.
and do what I tell you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about, I'm just going to speak for myself. I'm not sure how everyone feels, but I've often said I'd rather be happy than right.
But your nervous system doesn't agree with that.
Perhaps you're right. I can agree with that statement, but in the
Yeah.
context of peace,
When it comes right down to it, you're going to argue for what's important.
I agree.
And that's where we all go wrong.
What if I am just a little bit more careful with what I consider important?
That just really means you have to lie better and have better justifications, rationalizations, and worse consequences if the other doesn't go along with you. So your threats have to actually be bigger.
Okay.
Talk softly, carry a big stick.
Right. So, okay. So do you think that oh gosh, I'm afraid to ask this question, but I'm going to anyway, because I know people want to know, but is the act of avoiding conflict prolonging the inevitable?
There's no such thing as avoiding conflict. Any attempt you do to avoid conflict causes conflict and deepens the conflict.
Or resentment? Yeah, for sure.
Because a conflict and argument is almost always, there are some cases where it's not, but almost always a manifestation of the opposing parts of your inner selves. And we're geniuses at picking partners who, have the same conflict going on that we do, but they will pick consciously and outwardly the opposite argument. So I want to get married and you don't. Well, do I really want to get married? Well, if you do it, not even a real deed, you can see that there's a conflict inside in me and in you. But we're not going to learn that about each other because I'm just going to keep stating my argument and you're going to keep stating yours. And that's all that's going to happen until one of us gets tired of the argument and either tired of pushing or tired of pushing back. And then we're going to leave.
Unless we resolve the conflict.
But we won't if we don't learn to listen to the other and listen to ourselves to get to not the same page in a sense, but to get to the place that I have ambivalence about this, so do you. And it really comes from what's going on inside of me that would either want me to get married or not want me to get married, to raise the children this way or not raise the children this way, to spend this money this way or not spend this money this way. What's pushing me to have an ambivalence about that and then pick one side? And we're going, when we have this inner conflict, we we always wind up picking one side because we think that I have to only feel one way about this. And we almost never feel just one way about anything. But you're not going to get anything if you're going to share and want to discuss all the nuances of everything. I remember when John Kerry was running for president, the biggest gripe about him is he just does what I do and wanders around seemingly when he's explaining something. But the guy was a freaking policy wonk, and he knew what the hell he was talking about. It's just that nobody cared about the details, but he did, which is exactly the kind of person you want. You want your pilot and surgeon to care about the freaking detail. And no one, but God doesn't even know what he's talking about.
Okay.
No,
All right.
you don't know what he's talking about.
That's right. Okay, because that obviously, if you have a certain view or a certain position, but let me ask you something. Like if conflict avoidance is impossible, conflict resolution clearly isn't. There's a lot of weight in conflict resolution. I know as a professional, when you're looking at resumes, when you're looking at candidates, there's a lot today on the soft skills that a candidate may possess, and typically at or near the top of their list of soft skills is conflict resolution. What does that mean?
It means that you're an excellent listener, that you can put your own crap aside and really do a deep dive into the other world so that you can stand in their world and see what they see and know what they see and why they see it, and then be able to communicate that to them so that they have what I think is pretty much everybody's number one need, which is usually described as being seen, heard, felt, acknowledged, validated. A lot of different ways to describe it, but we're all looking for that. But it gets turned into, oh, what I really want is for you to agree with me.
Yeah, right.
Which means what I really want is for you to be like me. And why would I want you to be like me? Well, then we won't have any conflict. That's conflict avoidance. Okay. And I'm going to avoid conflict by convincing you to be me. Good luck with that.
Well, I love the way you described the qualitative or soft skills that someone who has been coached up in conflict resolution as being someone who can listen. I heard, maybe you didn't say it, but you mentioned all the hierarchy of the needs to be seen, acknowledged, heard, validated. You talked about what I call empathy. I don't know. I guess it's applicable, but
yeah, that's so empathy is exactly that. I want to and will take the time and put forth the effort, see and hear you.
That sounds healthy to me. In the context of a relationship.
It is. That's if you want a really good relationship, that's the thing you have to do. And that's the thing you have to always shoot for. And your kids misbehaving, the goal is to see, hear, validate them, see their world, and then let them know that you see their world. So I get it. I know why you are right. And then you tell them just what they said that does make sense. And the craziest things will make sense, which means follow a logical progression given their worldview. There is no other conclusion to draw if that's your worldview. Of course you want this or think this or feel this. How else would anybody? And they're like, yeah, so you're going to do what I want? No. Well, here's my worldview. And then you switch roles. Oh, that makes all the sense in the world why you're not. Okay. So you want the dishes facing this way. I want them facing that way. All right. What are we going to do? How are we going to handle this dishwasher? Given the, past differences we have. And then you got to get creative. and I've come up with all kinds of examples. I mean, you could say, all right, well, if you load the dishwasher and run it, and I open it, and I see this nightmare in there that will kill us all, I'll open it and I will go, and you'll say, yeah, I loaded the dishwasher and ran it, and we're all going to die. And I go, yeah, we probably need to leave a note when they find our bodies because they have no idea how to load the dishwasher. We ate off of filthy, nasty, germ infested, plates and cups and glasses and it killed us. Yeah, we should.
So I'm
Yeah.
sensing the sarcasm there, but clearly,
Well,
what is that?
but you're saying in that it's not really sarcasm, and it's humor in that I see you and I'm not going to push back against it. I'm going to make a joke about it and I'm going to unload the dishwasher and put the dishes away and I'm going to eat off them. And if I can't do that, if my OCD is so much that I can't do that, then I will turn them around and rerun the dishwasher or I'll hand wash them. Let's just hand wash them and then don't watch me.
Right.
You gotta have a way of telling me I'm not doing it right.
So tie a bow on that for me. You made a comment a minute ago, and it was something I'm going to paraphrase, but it was something about the secret to a good relationship. I mentioned empathy, and you said that's the key.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for the viewers, the listeners, for our audience, that one takeaway for those among us that really want to show up, that want to honor the relationship we're in, we want to be, I'm speaking for me personally, I want to show up, and I want to show up in a way
Mm-hmm.
that's healthy and loving and responsible. Like I want to know what I'm talking about and where it came from. And I think that's why people go to therapy, right? They just, at the end of the day, they want to be better in some
Mm-hmm.
way. And that, you can comment about that more than me, but give the audience something that they can work towards, something they can work with when it comes to a person like me who wants to be a good husband, a good dad, a good professional, a good colleague, a good friend.
Well, in the context of our conversation, the answer to your question is, be a good listener. And to become a good listener, you have to practice. I mean, it's like anything, any skill. And it really is a skill. And to acquire that skill, you got to practice. And it's really easy to practice because the practice takes place primarily inside of you with the opposing parts of yourself and the arguments that happen in our head. If you listen to your thoughts without intervening for more than a few seconds, you're going to hear arguments. You're going to hear, let's do this. Well, what about this? I want that. Well, I want that. Nobody inside listens. Right. So that's where you start. Ideally, the inside of our head should be conversations, not just spouting out opinions, thoughts, and beliefs and desires. And the one out example I use is I used to, before my wife started cooking for us, I used to go out and eat my main meal of the day. And I tend to be a creature of habit about food, and I want to go, places I like, and of course, but when you're eating out every day, you're going to run out of choices. And so it's like, instead of, all right, where do I want to eat today? It's, where do you guys want to eat today? What about Mexican? Oh, we had Mexican like 2 or 3 days. Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, we could go to the chicken place. Their vegetables are pretty good. And I'm saying, yeah, that would work. But what about pizza? I mean, and so everybody's throwing in and commenting, and nobody's all riled up about I gotta have my way because they built this relationship with each other over the years, really listening. And eventually you come to a consensus, which is where empathy happens. Is that empathy does not happen in a compromise. Right? I don't care what anybody says. I will argue that all day. No one's ever compromised about anything and felt good about it. Because if you even have to compromise, it's because something's important to you. If I don't really care how it is, I'm not going to work out a compromise. I don't care. Tell me which way you want the dishes, but it's okay. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. So if you work out a compromise, that means you're talking about something that really matters. And if you give up things, you're not going to be happy because those things really matter. So work toward consensus, which is a solution, a way to do this that neither one of us would have come up on our own. We wouldn't have come up with this on our own. We're just going to do it our way. And if you get to consensus, you know you're there because both people go, that'll work. And then it will. I mean, I really mean that. It will. I'm good with that. Let's see that again.
Yeah.
And that takes tremendous listening, a tremendous caring about the other person's wants, needs, desires, beliefs, and the desire to help them bring that about. That's that. I mean, that's all there is to it. That's what love really is. I want to know your world. I want to be an expert on your world. I want to live there with you and help you be the person you want to be, have the things you want to have, accomplish the things you want to accomplish so that you can, be who you want to be, to borrow one from the army. That's what love is. And nowhere in that is so that no, not so that. That's not love. That's just some sort of deal. Okay. I do it because that's what matters to me. Okay. So I tell people, that love can only be given. You can't get love. Anything you do to get love is an attempt to get something that's not love. And one of my favorite stories to kind of demonstrate that is the devil shows up one day to this preacher and says, "Hey, preacher, I'm the devil." And the preacher's like, "Oh my gosh, you are." And the devil says, "You're always talking about heaven and hell. You want to see them? Do you know what you're talking about?" And the preacher's like, "Well, gosh, I know you, and I know you're probably trying to trick me, but the Lord is with me. I'll go." So the devil takes him down this hallway and takes him to a door that's labeled hell. He says, "You ready for this?" He goes, "Yeah, okay." Opens the door, and there's this infinite space full of people, and there are these large groups of people around tables. Okay, that's how they're all sectioned off, and there's a giant pot of stew on the table. And the devil says, "Look what a genius I am here." He says, "I gave everybody a spoon that's too long." And so you see these people trying to feed themselves and they can't. So everybody's starving. Everybody has everything they need and they're starving. And the preacher's like, "Oh my gosh, this is awful. I don't want to live anymore. Let's go see heaven." He goes, "Okay." And so he gets to me. So he takes him to another door, says heaven, and he opens the door. Same room, same table, same pot of stew, same spoons. But everybody feeds each other. Well, there's to it. So you want to save the world? Feed somebody. Yeah. And not just food, Find out what other people need and help them get it, There's plenty of resources. There's plenty of everything in this world. I mean, sure, population is a problem, but it's a problem because I just think, don't care enough to take care of everybody. If we all fed each other, we'd be just fine. That's all there's to it, you know. So you don't have to worry in that environment about getting what you need because there will be plenty of people to help you do it. Plenty of people who want to feed you because everybody wants to feed everybody else. You know, I like the old timey idea of, you know, Joe needs a barn, so everybody gets together and they have a meal and they build him a barn. That's how you spend your day. Everybody's gonna wind up with a barn. If you want to love somebody, that's what you're in for. And the really tricky part is there's this massive confusion and conflict and that we have to sort out and really in a sense get rid of things that we think, feel, believe, do, so that we can put ourselves in a place where we can really love people, care about people, care, which starts with ourselves, loving ourselves. I mean, this is what loving yourself is. You listen to yourself and develop the sympathy for all the different wants, needs, and desires they have, and then work out a consensus of how to take care of everybody inside. How do you feed everybody inside? And then it makes it easy to do it outwardly because you develop that skill and the developmental process. I'm going to learn to be a good listener is very cognitive in the beginning, but it becomes very emotional in the end. And that's when you truly change your nervous system is when you have that emotional experience caring and you get the payoff of connection. That's the payoff. That's what most of us lack.
Yeah.
Is a sense that I'm truly cared for.
Yeah.
If you can say that and know it to be true, you're what are you here to worry about?
I think that was beautiful. That was awesome. I think we're gonna put a pin in it. What I heard you say is the we give love. We don't get love. Can't look for love. Can't seek love.
Right.
We can give it. We probably can give it more than we do. And in order to give it, we have to seek first to understand. And really, I love the way you talked about the definition of love and championing someone else's cause and taking the time and energy to really understand what's important, what their world view, what they seek, what they need, what they're looking for, and then that ability to find consensus and common ground to give them what you can in order for them to feel seen, heard, and validated. And through the context of your parable about the preacher and the devil, I mean, there's so much I've learned about you today. And when you talk about kindness, and our listeners and viewers talk about kindness and compassion and empathy, I think everyone would agree that we learned something today. So
it's good. I appreciate that feedback, and that's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing this podcast. You know, and I want more of us, and I want to get better at feeding other people and feeding myself in a way that works, which is, I mean, it's a constant learning process.
You're doing it.
You never get it now.
Well, you're still doing it.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. Every day, all day long.
Well, on behalf of Eddie and myself, Bill Courtright, we'd like to again express sincere gratitude for you spending some time with us today. This has been another episode of the Couch Trip, Therapy for Everyday Life, with none other than Eddie Reece and myself. We'll see you next time.